When Splatoon 2 came out, I didn't think I would play that much of it. A lot of the content seemed very similar to the original Splatoon, with it having the same ranked modes and only offering Salmon Run as the new big mode. I was mostly interested in playing the new story mode. Since then, I ended up playing way more of 2 than I did 1, with the story mode severely disappointing me. Now Splatoon 3 is releasing, also having similar content. I am having similar concerns. But since the story mode is based heavily on the Octo expansion DLC, it might be different. For the story mode, unlike the first 2 games, which mostly stay the same, this story takes inspiration from the Octo expansion DLC, with levels focusing on specific things. For example, there is a level based on keys where your main objective is to find a certain amount of keys in the level in order to get to the goal. In another level, you are required to beat it using the new Stringer weapon, with the level made around that weapon. The levels also give you a certain amount of tries to beat the level before you have to restart. The story is, once again the Zapfish goes missing, and it may or may not be because of DJ Octavio. You once again play as Agent 3, because the old Agent 3s keep quitting due to the fact you get 0 pay. Or maybe they got promoted to a job that has pay. Who knows? The truth is that Octavio didn't actually steal the Zapfish, and you are sent to a completely different area by the mysterious Deep Cut group. Once you are there, you then meet the original Agent 3, now the captain of the group, and Agent 1 and 2, who tell you that Captain Cuttlefish has gone missing and you need to find him somewhere in Alterna, the new open hub area. Instead of having linear hub worlds like before, the overworld is completely open with many collectibles to find. Types of collectibles you can find in the overworld are trading cards for the card game, sea scrolls which you used to be able to get in the levels, and collectibles you can place throughout the hub world. The world is connected by 6 pipes that you go through by getting enough eggs. You get the eggs by playing the levels, which there are about 10 per area. This makes the campaign a good bit longer than the previous games, though some of the levels are a bit shorter, so it somewhat balances out, though overall it is definitely longer. This time you get a sidekick called Little Buddy. You can throw him to objects you can't normally reach, and it will break the object and give you the item inside. You can also power them up to unlock new areas in the game and get new items. One of my favourite levels is a level where you aren't allowed to use any weapons and have to get through the entire level using Buddy. This lets you think about what he is able to do and helps you improve. For the bosses this time, you actually start out fighting DJ Octavio, which is weird since before you ended up fighting him as the final boss. This means that the bosses in this game are somewhat more challenging, which is a good thing since the bosses in the last game were a bit too easy. The main bosses in this game revolve around the new Deep Cut. These bosses are similar to the original Splatoon bosses. Though they are still more challenging, it would have been nicer if they changed up the bosses a bit more, with different ways to attack them. But they are still good, definitely better than the bosses in Splatoon 2. As for the multiplayer, because this game is a work in progress game, I won't be able to go too in depth on it, since I haven't had much time to play it and get properly into it. And a lot of the content still hasn't come out for it, so I will just be going over some of the basic additions so far for the game and what they have changed. The main addition to the game, and the thing that is on the box of the game, is the Stringer. This is sort of a bow and arrow type weapon that lets you shoot 3 pelts of ink at once. It is mostly a charge type weapon which gets greater range and damage the more you hold. Since I'm not really into charge type weapons, I can't say much about it, but it is cool that they have more unique weapons that do different things in the game. The other major weapon in the game is the Splatana. This is a very melee based weapon, with the name suggesting that it is based on a katana. This weapon I do like, even though I'm not that big into melee and more into ranged weapons. The name alone is cool though. As for new abilities, in this game they have the Squid Roll and the Squid Surge. These new abilities give you more agility and movement in the ink, and let you move up walls faster. Other abilities include the Crab Tank, the Trizuka, the Big Bubbler, and the Killer Whale 5.1. My favourite out of these is the Crab Tank, since first of all it's a crab, and can cover a lot of area in a short amount of time if used right, and helps greatly, especially in Splatfests. Speaking of Splatfests, they are a lot different in this game now, featuring 3 teams instead of 2. This unlocks a special new mode called Tricolor Turf War, which lets you battle against 2 other teams. This adds a lot of extra chaos, which I do commend since chaos is good in a game like this. They also have this extra item in the middle of the stage called the Ultra Signal. This will give the team that catches it an unknown benefit for the match, For example, the Sprinkler of Doom, which sets off mass amounts of rain. Other minor changes to the game include the new bosses in Salmon Run mode, the addition to the card game, which isn't really my thing, but it's cool I guess, the change to ranked mode, which now has a 5-mark system, and the ability to change your abilities for clothing, which is very nice and was well needed. One major thing in this game that I like more than Splatoon 2 is the music. In Splatoon 2 I was never really that into that music, and at some points had to mute the TV due to being so burnt out on it. But in this game I will probably do that a lot less, due to the music being a lot more enjoyable and easy to listen to. The story mode music is okay, but the multiplayer music is very dynamic with a lot of unique fun tunes. My biggest problem with the multiplayer though is the lack of new modes. Like with Splatoon 2, you only start off with the original ranked modes from the last game, though that also had Salmon Run as a new feature. This makes it harder to recommend to people who already have Splatoon 2, since the main gameplay content is very similar to that game. Though like Splatoon 2, they will probably add a new ranked mode in the future, but we do not have any information about that yet, so we will have to wait and see. In conclusion, I am actually pleasantly surprised with the single player mode, and honestly like it a lot more than the multiplayer right now. It adds a lot of unique features to the levels, and the open world areas are interesting. The multiplayer is also good, but I will have to spend more time with it and see if I get hooked on it again like with 2. The music is also very good, and the card game is a thing. If you like the Octo expansion and want more of that, I would say get the game. Though if you're a casual multiplayer fan and don't care much about the single player, then I would probably say wait a bit and see what content they add.